Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be the only human in a school filled with aliens? To stand out not because you're special, but because you're different. This is exactly what happened to Alex, a young man from Earth who was about to experience the adventure of a lifetime. The stars sparkled like tiny jewels scattered across the dark canvas of space. Alex pressed his face against the cool window of his shuttle, watching as something amazing came into view. The Intergalactic Academy floated before him like a magical city in the sky, wrapped in colorful clouds of space dust that glowed and shifted like a rainbow. The Academy was huge, bigger than any building Alex had ever seen on Earth. Tall towers reached up toward the stars, connected by glass bridges that seemed to float in midair. Round, bubble-like buildings dotted the structure, and everything seemed to glow with a soft, welcoming light. It looked like something from a fairy tale, but this was real. This was his new home. Alex's heart hammered in his chest as he stared at the incredible sight. His hands were sweaty, and his stomach felt like it was doing somersaults. He had dreamed about this moment every single day for the past 3 years. Ever since he was chosen to represent Earth at the most famous school in the galaxy, he had imagined what it would be like. But now that he was actually here, it felt almost too good to be true. First time seeing the Academy, asked the shuttle pilot, a friendly blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes. It never gets old, that sight. Yeah, Alex whispered, not wanting to look away from the window. It's incredible. The Academy wasn't just a school, it was a symbol of hope. It was proof that different species from all across the galaxy could work together, learn together, and become friends. Every year, the smartest young beings from thousands of different worlds came here to study. They shared their knowledge, their cultures, and their dreams. Alex had always loved learning about different kinds of life. On Earth, he spent hours reading about animals, plants, and the amazing ways life could exist. But here, he wouldn't just be reading about alien life, he would be living alongside it, learning from it, and hopefully teaching others about humans too. As the shuttle got closer, Alex could see movement through the transparent walls of the Academy. Shadows of students walking through corridors, some flying, some crawling, some moving in ways he couldn't even understand. His excitement grew stronger, but so did his nervousness. What if they didn't like him? What if he said something wrong? What if he was too different? The shuttle shook gently as it connected to the Academy's docking bay. Alex grabbed his bag, a simple backpack from Earth that suddenly seemed very plain compared to the high-tech luggage he'd seen other students carrying. "Good luck, young human," the pilot said with a warm smile that stretched across all 4 of his eyes. "You're going to do great things here." The shuttle doors opened with a soft whoosh, and Alex took his first step into his new world. Chapter 2. First Steps. Into wonder there inside the Academy felt different from Earth air. It was cooler and seemed to tingle on his skin. Alex could hear the quiet hum of advanced technology all around him, mixed with voices speaking in languages he had never heard before. Some sounded like music, others like the chirping of birds, and some were just strange clicking and buzzing sounds. The arrival hall was enormous, so big that Alex had to tilt his head back to see the ceiling. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, creating a warm, welcoming feeling. But what really took his breath away were the students. They were everywhere, and each one was more amazing than the last. Near the entrance, a group of tall, crystal-looking beings moved gracefully across the floor. Their bodies were see-through, and when the light hit them, they created beautiful rainbow patterns on the walls. They moved without making any sound, like they were floating instead of walking by a fountain in the center of the hall. Alex saw creatures that looked like giant butterflies, but with 6 wings instead of 4. Their wings shimmered with colors that changed as they moved, and they made soft, musical sounds as they talked to each other. Above his head, something that looked like a glowing ball of light floated past, leaving a trail of sparkling dust in the air. Alex watched in amazement as it communicated with other students by changing colors: blue for hello, green for excitement, red for surprise. There were so many different types of beings that Alex's head started to spin. Some had multiple arms, others had no arms at all. Some were covered in fur, others had scales that gleamed like jewels. Some were as tall as trees, others were no bigger than his hand but moved with incredible speed. And then there were the humans. Alex spotted them scattered throughout the crowd, maybe 10 or 12 in total. They looked just as amazed as he felt, their earth clothes and human features making them stand out like flowers in a field of stars. Seeing them made Alex feel a little less alone, but also reminded him just how special this opportunity was. Out of all the billions of humans on Earth, only a handful got to come here each year. As he stood there taking it all in, Alex became aware that many of the alien students were looking at him, too. Their stares weren't mean or unwelcoming. They seemed curious, interested. He realized that to them, he was just as strange and fascinating as they were to him. "Excuse me? Are you lost?" Alex turned around to find a tall alien woman standing beside him. She had long, thin arms and legs, and her skin was a beautiful pale blue color that seemed to shimmer like water. Her eyes were large and kind, and they glowed with a soft white light. "Oh no, I'm okay," Alex said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. He held up his wrist to show her the small hologram map that was floating above his watch. "I'm just ... Wow. This place is incredible." The alien woman smiled and her eyes brightened. "It can feel overwhelming at first," she said in a voice that sounded like gentle wind chimes. "I remember my first day here. I stood in this exact spot for almost an hour, just staring at everything." "Really?" Alex asked, feeling a bit better. "Really?" She laughed. "But don't worry, you'll get used to it. Soon this will feel like home." She gave him a graceful nod and glided away. Her movements smooth and elegant. Alex watched her go, then looked down at his map. His room was in the student housing section, which seemed to be quite far from where he was now. He took a deep breath, adjusted his backpack, and started walking. The corridors of the academy were like nothing he had ever seen. The walls curved and flowed like they had grown naturally instead of being built. Soft lights followed him as he walked, keeping his path, bright while dimming behind him to save energy. The floor felt solid but somehow soft under his feet, making walking comfortable even after long distances. As he walked, Alex passed classroom windows and caught glimpses of lessons in progress. In one room, students were working with what looked like living light, shaping it with their hands into different forms. In another, a professor with tentacles instead of arms was showing students how to communicate with plants that glowed and moved when touched. Everything was so advanced, so magical that Alex started to worry. What if he wasn't smart enough for this place? What if his Earth's education hadn't prepared him for learning alongside beings who could manipulate energy and talk to plants? But then he remembered why he was here. He wasn't here just to learn. He was here to share what he knew about humans. He was here to show these incredible beings that Earth and its people had something valuable to offer to Chapter 3. A room with a view of infinity finally. After what felt like hours of walking but was probably only 20 minutes, Alex found his room. The door recognized him automatically and slid open with a quiet whisper. The room was much bigger than he had expected. The walls were a soft cream color that seemed to glow gently, and the furniture looked comfortable and simple. But what really amazed him was the window. It wasn't just a window. It was an entire wall made of clear material that showed the most beautiful view Alex had ever seen. Outside, the academy's gardens stretched out in all directions, filled with plants and trees from hundreds of different worlds. Some glowed with their own light. Others moved gently, even though there was no wind. And some seemed to change colors as he watched. Beyond the gardens, space stretched out forever, filled with stars, planets, and the swirling colors of the nebula. that surrounded the academy. Alex stood there for a long time, just watching the cosmic dance outside his window. As he started to unpack his few belongings from Earth, Alex felt a mix of emotions washing over him. He was excited, nervous, homesick, and thrilled all at the same time. This was the beginning of something completely new, not just for him, but for his understanding of what life could be. He placed his photos of family and friends on the desk, along with a small piece of rock from his hometown. These little pieces of Earth would help him remember where he came from while he learned about the rest of the universe. Over the next few days, Alex threw himself into academy life. There were orientation meetings where he learned about the schools, rules, and history. There were sessions with professors who explained how classes worked and what was expected of students. There were meal times in the great dining hall where Alex tried foods from dozens of different worlds, some delicious, some not so much, but the best part was meeting his classmates. Despite their incredible differences in appearance and abilities, Alex found that they were all just young people like him, curious about the universe, excited to learn, and eager to make friends. There was Clicks, an insect-like being from a desert planet who could solve mathematical equations faster than a computer. There was Morpheus, a shape-shifting student who could change his appearance to look like anyone or anything. There was Luna, a quiet girl from a moon world, who could see energy patterns, invisible to everyone else. Each of them had amazing abilities and knowledge from their home worlds. And slowly, Alex began to realize that he had something amazing to offer to the unique perspective of a human from Earth. Chapter 4. Meeting Zara. But among all his new classmates, there was one who captured Alex's attention from the very first day. Her name was Zara, and she was from a planet called Velar. The first time Alex saw her, she was sitting in the front row of their evolutionary biology class, asking the professor questions that were so smart and thoughtful that even the other students turned to listen. Zara was beautiful in a way that was completely different from human beauty. Her skin was a soft green color that seemed to shimmer like water in sunlight. Her eyes were large and expressive, and they changed colors based on her emotions. Blue when she was thinking, gold when she was excited, silver when she was calm. Her hair was long and silver, and it moved like liquid metal when she walked. But what really fascinated Alex wasn't how she looked. It was how she thought. The Velar people were known throughout the galaxy for being incredibly intelligent. They had discovered technologies that other species were still trying to understand. They could manipulate electrical energy with their minds. And they had solved problems in science and mathematics that had puzzled other civilizations for centuries. Zara was clearly one of the brightest students at the academy. She spoke with confidence about complex scientific concepts, and her questions often made the professors pause and think carefully before answering. During that first biology class, the professor, an impressive creature with 6 arms and a voice that rumbled like thunder, had asked the class to discuss how different species had evolved to survive in their environments. On Velar, Zara had said, her voice clear and strong, "Our species evolved during a time when our planet was hit by constant electrical storms. These storms were so powerful they could destroy entire cities. Over millions of years, our people developed the ability to absorb and control electrical energy instead of being hurt by it. Now, these storms that once threatened us actually make us stronger." Alex had been amazed by her answer. It was so detailed, so well thought out, and delivered with such confidence. He found himself leaning forward to hear every word. When the professor asked if any other students wanted to share, Alex felt his heart start beating faster. This was his chance to contribute something to the discussion. Slowly, he raised his hand. "Humans also evolved to survive challenges," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "but our evolution was different. Instead of developing special powers, we learned to adapt by changing our environment. We created tools, built shelters, and developed technology to help us survive in almost any condition. Our strength isn't in special abilities, it's in our creativity and determination." As he spoke, Alex noticed that Zara had turned to look at him. Her eyes, now a curious shade of purple, seemed to be studying him carefully. When he finished speaking, she smiled, an expression that made her entire face light up. "That's fascinating," she said softly, so only he could hear. "Humans have achieved so much in such a short time compared to other species. Your adaptability is remarkable." From that moment on, Alex found himself looking forward to every class, hoping to see Zara and maybe have another conversation with her. Chapter 5. Growing. Friendship. As the days passed, Alex and Zara began spending more time together. It started with small conversations after class, then study sessions in the library, and eventually long walks through the academy's beautiful gardens. Zara was genuinely curious about human biology and culture. She asked Alex hundreds of questions about Earth, what the sky looked like, how humans had developed music and art, why humans seemed to have such strong emotional connections to each other. On Valere, she explained during one of their garden walks, we focus primarily on intellectual development. We value knowledge and logic above almost everything else. But humans seem to balance intelligence with something else, something I find very intriguing. You mean emotions? Alex asked. Not just emotions, Zara said, her eyes shifting to a thoughtful blue color. Humans seem to have this incredible drive to connect with others, to protect those they care about, to create things that are beautiful. Rather than just functional, it's inspiring. Alex felt a warm glow in his chest at her words. Well, Velar people have something humans really admire too, he said. Your ability to understand complex problems so quickly, to see patterns and solutions that we might miss, that's amazing to us. As their friendship grew stronger, Alex found himself becoming more confident at the academy. Zara's respect for human abilities helped him see his own species in a new light. He began to speak up more in classes, sharing insights about human problem-solving and adaptation that his classmates found fascinating. But there was something else growing between them too, something deeper than friendship. Alex caught himself looking forward to seeing Zara more than anything else in his day. When she smiled at him, the entire academy seemed brighter. When she listened to him talk about Earth, he felt like the most interesting person in the galaxy. And sometimes, when they were walking together in the gardens under the light of distant stars, Alex thought he saw something special in her color-changing eyes. Chapter 6. The Big Opportunity. Everything changed the day their biology professor made an exciting announcement. Students, Professor Xenon boomed, his 6 arms gesturing enthusiastically. Next week we will begin a special series of presentations. Each of you will have the opportunity to teach the class something unique about your species' biology. This is your chance to share the wonders of your people with your classmates. Alex's heart immediately started racing. This was exactly the kind of opportunity he had been hoping for. A chance to show his classmates what made humans special, to prove that Earth had contributed something valuable to the galactic community, without even thinking about it. Alex's hand shot up into the air. I volunteer to go first, he said, his voice stronger and more confident than he felt inside. Professor Xenon's multiple eyes focused on Alex, and a smile spread across his alien features. Excellent, Alex. I'm looking forward to learning about human biology. You'll present next Friday. As the class ended and students began filing out, Alex felt a mixture of excitement and pure terror wash over him. This was his big chance. But what if he messed it up? What if his presentation was boring compared to the amazing abilities his classmates could demonstrate? Alex, wait up, called a familiar voice behind him. He turned to see Zara approaching, her eyes glowing with warm golden light, the color they turned when she was excited or happy. That was brave of you to volunteer first, she said, walking beside him as they left the classroom. Do you know what you're going to present about? I think so, Alex said, feeling more confident just talking to her. I want to show them how the human muscular system works. Most of the species here rely on mental abilities or special powers, but humans developed physical strength and endurance. I think that's something unique I can share. Zara's eyes shifted to an interested purple color. That sounds fascinating. I've noticed that you're physically much stronger than most students here. But I never really thought about how that related to human evolution. Alex felt his cheeks get warm at the compliment. Well, I've been training since I was young. Physical fitness is really important in human culture, not just for health, but for confidence and discipline too. Would you ... Zara paused, looking a bit shy for the first time since Alex had known her. Would you like some help preparing your presentation? I could be your practice audience. Alex's heart jumped with joy. That would be amazing. Thank you. Zara. She smiled and her eyes turned the warm golden color again. Great. We can work together every evening this week. I'll make sure you're completely ready. Chapter 7. Preparation and growing feelings. The next week flew by in a blur of preparation. Every evening after classes, Alex and Zara met in one of the academy's study rooms. Alex practiced his presentation over and over, while Zara listened carefully and offered suggestions. Remember to explain why human strength developed, she said during one of their sessions. Your classmates will want to understand the evolutionary reasons, not just see demonstrations. Right? Alex nodded, making notes. Humans needed to hunt, build shelters, and protect their families. Physical strength was essential for survival. As they worked together, Alex became more and more aware of how much he enjoyed spending time with Zara. She was brilliant, kind, and genuinely interested in helping him succeed. But more than that, when she looked at him with those color-changing eyes, he felt something he had never experienced before. He was falling in love with her. The realization hit him one evening as they were reviewing his presentation outline. Zara was explaining something about how to structure his demonstration, her silver hair catching the light as she gestured enthusiastically. Suddenly, Alex wasn't hearing her words anymore. He was just watching her face, thinking about how beautiful she was and how much her friendship meant to him. Alex, are you listening? She asked, her eyes shifting to a curious blue. Sorry, he said, shaking his head to clear his thoughts. I was just ... thinking about how much this means to me. Having your help, I mean? Thank you for believing in me. Zara's expression softened, and her eyes turned a gentle silver color. Alex, you don't need to thank me. What you're doing is important. You're going to show everyone that humans have something special to offer. I believe in you because you've shown me how amazing your species can be. The night before his presentation, Alex was so nervous he could barely sleep. He had gone over his notes 100 times, practiced his demonstrations until his muscles ached, and prepared for every question he could think of. But still, the fear gnawed at him. What if he forgot something important? What if his classmates weren't interested? What if he embarrassed not just himself, but all of humanity? Around midnight, there was a soft knock on his door. When Alex opened it, he found Zara standing in the hallway, holding 2 cups of a warm, glowing drink from her home planet. I thought you might not be sleeping, she said with a gentle smile. This tea helps calm the mind. They sat by his window, looking out at the stars and sipping the warm drink. It did help Alex feel more relaxed. But what helped even more was having Zara there beside him. You're going to do wonderfully tomorrow, she said softly. I've watched you prepare and I've seen how passionate you are about sharing your knowledge. That passion will shine through and everyone will see what I see, that humans are remarkable. What do you see? Alex asked quietly. Zara was quiet. For a moment, her eyes shifting through several colors before settling on a warm, deep gold. I see someone who cares deeply about representing his people well. Someone who works incredibly hard to achieve his goals. Someone who is strong, not just physically, but in spirit too. She paused, then added even more softly, someone very special. Alex felt his heart start beating faster. He wanted to tell her how he felt about her, how much her friendship meant to him. how she had helped him become more confident and proud of being human. But the words seemed stuck in his throat. Instead, he just said, "Thank you, Zara, for everything." She smiled and stood up to leave. "Good luck tomorrow, Alex. I'll be in the front row, cheering you on." After she left, Alex finally felt calm enough to sleep. Tomorrow would be the biggest day of his time at the academy so far, and he was as ready as he would ever be. The story continues from here, leading to Alex's successful presentation and the growing relationship between him and Zara. But this expanded version is now approximately twice the length of the original while maintaining the same plot progression, character development, and writing style, but with simpler language and a more engaging opening. Drifting between biology, culture, and the vast mysteries of the galaxy, and as they stood beneath the towering treasure surrounded by the strange and beautiful flora from countless worlds, Alex realized that his time at the academy was about more than just biology or proving himself. It was about connection between species, between individuals, and between arts. Then Intergalactic Academy had opened its doors to him, but it was the relationships he was building that would define his journey. Here on Zara, he had found not just a friend, but a partner in that journey, one that would take them both to places they had never imagined as they walked together beneath the stars. Alex knew that his story here was only just beginning the air. In the Academy's biology auditorium was charged with anticipation as Alex stood at the front of the room. As palms, slightly damp with nervous energy, the grand ved ceiling of the room arched high above, resembling the ribbed interior of some ancient beast's. Light from hovering orbs illuminated the space, casting a soft glow over the faces of students. From every corner of the galaxy, each one watched him with varying degrees of variant. And we stuff at way of days of dagies. And we all know I've been exploring that. And we all know I've been exploring that path. Beast light from lead do 5, with states light leads illumine. I'd be sa colors to a seft. I'd be with the lead life, with these 6, kavi kuweed live. I reti with 6 gonna ye with thee rate to we with sick to you at we come with see you with a we said I mean we psych I so we could so I do you to you we could collide I could to ski I got I think that I got I do with you that's interest, curiosity, or skepticism. This was no ordinary classroom. It was a stage for discovery where knowledge from dozens of special sand planets came together, creating an atmosphere thick with intellectual curiosity. For Alex, today's presentation will be more than just a demonstration of human anatomy. It was his chance to showcase his species in a way that few had ever done before, a way to bridge the gap between human biology and the intricate, often incomprehensible physiology of the alien species around him. He adjusted his stance, staying tall and confident. Though his heart pounded in his chest, his muscles prominent beneath the fitted uniform he wore drew several pairs of alien eyes, each trying to understand the form and function of the human body. A structure so foreign to them, he felt their curiosity, like a tangible presence, but that was exactly what he'd hoped for the professor, a towering arachnoid creature with 8 slender arms and eyes that shimmered like quicksilver, introduced him. Her voice, which vibrated through the air, was both musical and commanding. Today, we are privileged to witness a rare and fascinating presentation from one of our human students. Alex from Earth will provide us with a detailed explanation and demonstration of human musculature, an anatomical marvel known for its strength and adaptability. Alex nodded, his mouth dry, as he turned toward the audience he had prepared for this moment, meticulously rehearsing each point, each motion, knowing that for most of his peers this will be their first real look at a human body beyond the superficial. He began his presentation with a holographic image of the human muscular system projected into the air beside him. The image hovered rotatingly, revealing layer upon layer of muscle fibers, tendons, and bones, The human body, Alex started, his voice clear but calm, is a complex system of biological engineering. While it may seem fragile compared to some of the more exotic species you were used to, humans have evolved to thrive in a wide variety of environments. From deserts to frozen tundras and even in the deep oceans. As he spoke, he began to peel back the layers of the hologram, showing the dense networks of muscle tissue beneath. The skin, he explained the primary functions of different muscle groups. The biceps, triceps, quadriceps, and hamstrings, each with its specific role in movement, strength, and endurance. What sets humans apart, he continued. It's not just the strength of our individual muscles, but how they work together in perfect harmony. We have evolved to be adaptable, which has given us an incredible range of motion and physical capability. As he moved through the presentation, he didn't just rely on the hologram to explain. Instead, Alex used his own body as a living example. Harold up his sleeves, exposing his forearms, and flexed his muscles, showing how the tendons and fibers contracted and relaxed with each movement. Several of the alien students leaned forward, their eyes widening in surprise to them. This was something entirely new in anatomy, designed for raw power, coordination, and resiliency. The crowd, Zara, watched with quiet admiration. Her pale green skin seemed to shimmer softly in the dim light of the auditorium, and her iridescent eyes followed Alex's every movement, absorbing not just the content of his presentation, but the way he carried himself. She had seen him practice countless times, had been privy to the doubts and nervous energy he had hidden from most, but here now, in front of the Academy's most brilliant minds, Alex was in his element, radiating confidence and passion for his subject. Her heart swelled with pride for her friend, but also with something more, in affection that she had kept carefully tucked away, unsure of how to express it, or if it was even appropriate to feel in first place. As Alex continued, the energy in the room shifted. The initial curiosity of the students turned into deeper engagement. He had anticipated skepticism, particularly from species shows. Biological designs were vastly different. Some of his classmates didn't even possess a skeletal structure, let alone anything resembling muscles. But the more he explained, the more they were drawn in and intrigued by the way human evolution had shaped their bodies for survival. One of the students, a tall plant-like being with thick fibrous limbs, raised a tendril in question. Your species relies heavily on physical strength, it said in a slow, melodic voice. As many of the beings in this galaxy have transcended the need for such corporeal limitations, why have humans not evolved beyond this dependency? Alex smiled at the question, having anticipated something along those lines. It's true that some species have developed beyond the need for physical strength, relying instead on other faculties like telepathy or advanced energy manipulation, but humans have remained reliant on our physical bodies. Because of our adaptability, our strength allows us to survive in environments where other species might struggle. We can hunt, gather, build, and even defend ourselves in hostile terrains. It's part of what makes us resilient. He paused, letting the point sink in. However, it's not just about strength. Humans are a blend of physical and mental prowess. We combine our physical capabilities with intelligence, strategy, and innovation. That's how we survived on a planet with a wide variety of ecosystems, predators, and natural disasters. Another student, a feline like Hollian with sharp golden eyes, raised a paw. How do you deal with injury with such reliance on physicality? Are you not vulnerable to damage? Alex nodded. Absolutely, our bodies are vulnerable, but have advanced medical knowledge that helps us recover quickly from injury. Human bones, for example, can repair themselves over time after fractures in our muscles, while susceptible to strain, are designed to recover and even grow stronger after repeated use or damage. It's part of what makes humans so adaptable. We learn from our physical experiences, and our bodies reflect that. To demonstrate, Alex lifted a heavy weight from the table beside him, one of the few human-made tools in the room. His muscles tensed and flexed as he reset it above his head with ease. The audience watched transfixed as he lowered the weight, his breathing steady. The action, so simple to humans, seemed to carry a different weight to his alien peers. For many of them, such physical feats were rare or unnecessary in their cultures. Sitting near the back felt a swell of pride, her heart pounding. In rhythm with Alex's controlled breaths, she had always admired his drive, but seeing him now under the critical gaze of so many brilliant minds, she felt her admiration deepen. But she also noticed something else the way the other female students in the room began to look at Alex. Their interest wasn't purely academic, so sensed the curiosity the way their gazes lingered on his muscular form, the way their expression shifted from intrigue to something more. She felt an unexpected pay of something. Jealousy? No, it wasn't. That, at least, not in the usual sense. So it was more complicated, a feeling she couldn't quite name. She wasn't sure which was to Alex's friend confidant. Something more, but as she watched other female students openly admire him, a new motion bubbled up inside her, one that made her shift uncomfortably in her seat. When the demonstration ended, the room erupted into applause. The alien students, many of whom had never witnessed a human's physical capabilities up close, were clearly impressed. Several students immediately approached Alex, their questions spilling out in a cacophony of languages, each one eager to learn more, to understand the human form in greater detail. Among them were several female students from different species, all of them lingering a little too close for Zara's liking. They asked Alex personal questions, touching his arms, commenting on his physique in ways that Warion, a tall, willowy being from a gaseous planet, leaned in close, her voice a soft purr as she complimented. His strength through must be quite the warrior on your planet, she said, her gaze lingering on his shoulders. It's rare to see such natural power combined with intellect. Alex, ever polite, smiled and thanked her, but his eyes scanned the room for someone else, someone whose opinion really mattered to him. When his gaze finally landed on Zara, standing quietly near the back, his smile widened. He excused himself from the small crowd and made his way over to her, his presence calm amidst the sudden storm of attention. You are incredible, Zara said softly, as he approached, her iridescent eyes reflecting a soft, shifting light there. All fascinated by you, thanks, Alex replied, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. I wasn't sure how it would go, but I think they liked it. Zara nodded, her heart fluttering as she stood beside him, the excitement of the moment hanging between them. They more than liked it. He made an impression. Lexa, big one. But as the crowd of admirers lingered behind him, Zara couldn't help but wonder what kind of impression he had made. She wasn't the only one who had noticed the way those other students looked to that, like him, like he was something exotic, something desirable. And while Alex remained focused on her, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that things were changing, that perhaps their friendship, which had always felt so certain, might soon be tested in ways neither of them had expected. As they walked together out of the auditorium, leaving behind the buzzing crowd, Zara felt the shift like a new force pulling at the delicate bond between them. She hoped it would hold. She wasn't ready to lose what they had, whatever it was becoming. And for Alex, he was too focused on the excitement of his successful presentation to notice the growing undercurrent around him. This was the beginning of his journey at the academy, but for Zara, it felt like this start of something else entirely. The days following Alex's anatomy demonstration blurred into our whirlwind of academic engagement, social interactions, and an unexpected surge of attention that Alex had never anticipated. The academy, with its towering spires and sprawling biodomes, felt more alive than ever, and Alex had suddenly found himself at the center of a growing circle of admiration. It started subtly at first. Students who had been present for the presentation stopped him in the halls, eager to ask more questions about human physiology or to simply congratulate him on his thorough, engaging performance. His answers were often met with wide-eyed fascination, as though the human body was some strange exotic puzzle that needed to be unraveled. Yet as more days passed, Alex noticed that the questions weren't just about his lecture anymore. There were lingering glances, casual touches, and compliments that had nothing to do with biology. He could feel the shift, the curiosity of his classmates evolving into something else, something more personal. The Academy's diverse student body, once intimidating in its vast differences, was starting to feel oddly familiar in this new light. Alex Nora recognized the quiet, steady presence of some of the female students, who had taken a more overt interest in him. After the demonstration, they would find excuses to sit next to him during lectures, join him at the Academy's communal dining halls, or offer to work on projects together. It seemed innocent enough at first, just friendly gestures from curious minds about Alex couldn't ignore the deeper intentions beneath. The surface among these students was Kyra, a tall, willowy alien from a planet called Mars, her species with their elongated limbs and soft, translucent skin were known for their grace and intellect. Kyra's sharp, feline-like eyes gleamed with an intelligence that Alex respected, but there was something else in the way she spoke to him. Now her compliments were always laced with something more. An undertone of admiration for his strength, his physique, and the qualities that seemed to fascinate her on a level beyond academics. "You have such a unique build," Kyra had said one afternoon during a study session. They were seated in one of Academy's many open gardens, a space filled with towering bioluminescence and plants in gentle streams of water that crisscrossed the grounds like glowing veins. Humans must be exceptional survivors to have evolved with such strength and versatility. Alex shifted slightly, feeling her gaze on him even as she pretended to be focused on their assignment. "I guess we are. It's all about adaptability," replied his voice, casual. He could feel thwitty of her attention, though, and it made him uneasy. "We've had to find a balance between physical strength and intelligence just to make it through the challenges Earth has thrown at us." Kyra smiled, her thin, graceful fingers tapping lightly on her tablet. "Fascinating. I would love to learn more about how your body responds to stress. Perhaps we could run some experiments together. See how far the limits of human endurance go there." It was again an offer that simultaneously scientific but carried a suggestive undertone that was hard to miss. Alex laughed it off, shifting the conversation back to their academic work, but Kyra's interest didn't fade. She lingered in his orbit always, finding ways to be near him, her presence a constant reminder of the attention he now commanded, yet despite the growing attention from his peers. Alex's mind kept drifting back to Zara. From the moment he had arrived at the Academy, Zara had been a constant in his life, an anchor in the sea of unknowns. She had been his first real friend here, someone new had seen beyond the novelty of his human form and instead connected with him on an intellectual level. She had asked the questions no one else had about Earth's history, about human culture, and the deeper facets of their biology. There was a sincerity in Zara's curiosity, a genuine interest that made her different from the others. But lately, Alex had noticed a subtle change in their interactions. Zara had grown quieter, more reserved. She still joined him for their study session, still worked alongside him in their biology seminars. But something was different. The easy flow of conversation that had once defined their friendship now felt stilted at times, as though there was something unspoken lingering. "We went to them." Alex couldn't shake the feeling that Zara had seen things. He had the way some of the other students, especially the female ones, seemed to flock to him now. He noticed her quiet glances when others made their advances, noticed the way she would bust herself with work when someone else lingered too long at his side. It bothered him, but he wasn't sure why. After all, it wasn't like he had any control over how the other students felt or acted around him. Yet there was something in Zara's eyes when she looked at him now that made his chest tighten, a distance that hadn't been there before. One evening, as the two of them sat in Academy's library surrounded by devouring shelves of holographic books and ancient texts, Alex decided he couldn't take the silence any longer. "Zara, is everything okay?" he asked, his voice soft but direct. Zara looked up from her tablet, her iridescent eyes catching the light for a moment before she blinked and glanced away. "Of course, why wouldn't it be?" she replied, her voice calm but guarded. Alex sighed, setting down his notes. "I just feel like things have been different between us lately. I mean, we still hang out and study together, but I didn't know it feels like you're pulling away. Did I do something to upset you?" Zara was quiet for a long moment, her eyes fixed on the page in front of her as if she were trying to find the right words. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than usual, almost hesitant. Not that, Alex, then you didn't do anything wrong. It's just, I've noticed how things have changed since your demonstration. How people look at you now. Alex frowned, leaning forward slightly. What do you mean? Zara's fingers tightened around her tablet and she finally met his gaze, her iridescent eyes whirling with emotion. She was struggling to contain. You become popular, Alex? I mean, you've always been likable. But now, no. It's different. People aren't just interested in you because of your knowledge, they're drawn to you physically. You've seen how some of the other students act around you. Alex felt a surge of discomfort. Not because what Sarah was saying wasn't true, but because it forced him to confront the growing attention he had been trying to ignore, I guess. I've noticed it, he admitted, running a hand through his hair, but I don't really know how to deal with it. I came here to learn not to become the object of everyone's fascinations. Finished, her voice tending something between amusement and frustration. Alex chuckled softly, but the sound lacked humor. Yeah, something like that, but I'm not interested in that kind of attention, right? I mean, I've been trying to stay focused on what we're doing on our work. Zara gave him a small, tight lismle. I know, but it's hard not to notice when you're constantly surrounded by admirers there. Was an awkward silence between them, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging in the air like a thick fog? Alex could sense that there was more Zara wasn't saying, but he didn't want to push her. He wasn't entirely sure what he wanted to hear either. Look, Zara, he said, finally leaning back in his chair and meeting her gaze with a seriousness he hadn't shown before. You're my friend, the first real friend I made here. I care about you, and I don't want anything to come between that. Whatever is happening with the other students, it doesn't change the way I see you. You're the one who's been there for me, who's helped me through all of this. Zara's expression slightly, her iridescent eyes flickering with uncertainty. I know, Alex, I do, and I'm glad. We're friends. It's just complicated. How? Alex asked, his voice gentle. Zara hesitated for a moment, as eye swaying her words. Carefully, she didn't want to risk losing the bond they shared, but she couldn't deny the feelings that had been bubbling beneath the surface for so long. I guess it's hard watching you get all this attention, not because jealous, she added quickly, but because, I don't know, maybe. I am a little jealous, and not of them, but of the fact that you're being pulled in so many directions, and I don't know where I fit in anymore. Her words hit Alex like a wave wash over him, with the weight off there, meaning he hadn't realized just how much Zara had been affected by everything that had happened since his demonstration. He had been so focused and navigating the new dynamics himself that he hadn't stopped to consider how it might be impacting her. Zara, he said softly, reaching out to place a hand on her arm. You're not just part of my life here. You're the most important part. Alt's attention. It's weird, and I don't really know how to handle it, but you've always been the one I can count on. That hasn't changed. And it won't. Zara looked down at his hand on her arm, her heart racing in her chest. The warmth of his touch sent shiver through her, and for a moment she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like if things were different. If they were more than just friends, but then just as quickly she pushed the thought aside. Alex was hearing, and she wouldn't risk that for anything. I'm glad to hear that, she said softly, pulling her arm away gently and giving him a small smile. I just needed to know where I stood. You've always stood right next to me, Alex replied, his voice steady, and that's where I want you to stay. The tension between them seemed to ease, the unspoken weight lifting just a little. They returned to their studies, the conversation lingering in the background like a quiet hum, but for Noette was enough. They had cleared the air at least a little, and Alex felt more certain than ever that Zara was the person he wanted by his side, no matter what came next. But as the days continued to pass, the attention from other students didn't fade. If anything, it seemed to grow. More female students sought him out, more compliments were whispered in the halls, and more eyes followed him wherever he went. Alex did his best to keep his focus on his studies and on Zara. But he couldn't deny that the dynamics were shifting in ways that were beyond his control, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered just how long he could balance it all, his friendship with Zara, the academic pressures, and the attention that seemed to grow with every passing day. The academy's halls felt differento. Alex, as he walked them, now quieter somehow, despite the ever-present hum of alien voices and the soft wear of levitating transports. Gliding above, he had grown accustomed to the routine, to the steady stream of admiration that seemed to follow him wherever he went, but today that attention felt heavier than ever, like a weight pressing down on his shoulders. It had been weeks since he has anatomy demonstration, in the buzz surrounding him had only intensified. Some of the female students had become direct in their interest, particularly Kyra, whose feline-like eyes seemed to follow him everywhere. She was charming, in her own way, intelligent, graceful, with a sharp wit that Alex admired, but her attention made Hyman comfortable, not because she wasn't interesting or attractive, but because every time she leaned into too close, whispered something suggestive, his mind drifted elsewhere. It drifted to Sarah, with her pale green skin that shimmered faintly under the academy's artificial whites. Her silver hair that flowed like liquid metal, and her eyes, those iridescent eyes that shifted colors with her emotions. Alex had spent so much time with her, learning, laughing, sharing pieces of themselves that they hadn't shared with anyone else. There was an ease between them, a familiarity that had grown into something deeper, something that Alex hadn't fully until now he had always thought of Zara as his closest friend, his confidant. But lately, something inside him had shifted. He found himself looking at her differently, noticing the way her lips curved into asmil when she laughed, the way her eyes brightened when she was excited about a new discovery in class, or the way her voice softened when she spoke to him in moments of quiet. And now that realization had settled heavily in his chest, a truth that he could no longer ignore. Alex's thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of his wrist communicator. It was Zara. Her voice came through clear and familiar. "Alex, can you meet me at the East Biome? I wanted to go over some of the new research data with you," she said, her tone casual, but there was a slight to it, a hint of something she wasn't saying. "Sure, I'll be there in a few minutes," Alex replied, though he was already racing. The East Biodome was one of the Academy's most peaceful space, is a massive dome-shaped structure filled with flora from dozens of planets. It was a place where students could study in tranquility, surrounded by the vibrant alien greenery. But for Alex and Zara, it had always been more than that. It was their place, the spot where Effie often retreated after long days of classes and lab work, the sanctuary where they could simply be themselves. When Alex arrived, he found Zara standing near the central fountain, her back to him, soft glow of the bioluminescent plants bed in ethereal light making her look almost otherworldly. Though to Alex, she had always been a bit otherworldly, even by the Academy standard. "Hey," he called softly as he approached, his voice tentative. Zara turned to face him, her expression unreadable for a moment, before she offered him a small smile. "Hey," she replied, though her iced host's shifting iridescent eyes seemed troubled. So for a few moments they stood in silence, the sound of the bubbling fountain in the distant hum of the Academy's life the only noise between them. Alex could sense that something was in her mind, something heavier than their usual conversations about biology or Academy life, and he felt the tension like a thread pulled taut between them. "Zara, is something wrong?" Alex asked, stepping closer, his concern evident in his voice. "And you've seemed distant lately, and I don't want to lose what we have." Zara sighed, looking down at her hands before meeting his gaze again. "I've been thinking a lot, Alex, about us, about everything that's been happening since your presentation." She paused, searching for the right words. "Things have changed, haven't they?" Alex frowned, slightly unsure of where she was going with this. "What do you mean?" Zara took a deep breath, her eyes shimmering with uncertainty. "Become popular. I see the way other students look at you now, especially some of the girls, and I guess Eve been wondering if there's still room for me in your life, if I'm still the person you turn to when you need Simeon." Her words hit Alex like A wave, and suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the hesitation, the quiet glances she had been giving him. Lately, it was all because of how things had shifted between them. But she didn't realize that through it all, she had been one constant. In his mind, it's the one person he couldn't stop thinking about. Zara. You'll always be the person. It earned too, Alex said softly, taking a step closer to her. None of this attention matters to me. None of them. Matter, like a voodoo? Zara's eyes widened slightly. At his words, her heart skipping a beat. Alexei, I don't want to make things complicated. I value our friendship more than anything, but I can't help. I feel. Alex swallowed, his pulse quickening as he realized what she was about to say. The air between them seemed to thicken, the weight of unspoken emotions hanging in the space like a tangible presence. Sarah hesitated, her voice trembling slightly as she continued. I think I've been trying to hide it, trying to pretend. I'm okay with just being your friend, but truth is I've fallen for you, OX. Would I care about you more than I should? And I don't know if that's something you want to hear, but I can't keep pretend that it doesn't affect me. But her confession hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. And for a moment, Eric's felt like the world had stopped turning. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times in his head, had wondered if Zara felt the same way he did, but hearing her say the words, it was more than he could have hoped for. Zara, he whispered, stepping closer until they were only inches apart. I have fallen for you. Words slipped from his lips. Unbidden but true, in the relief that washed over him was palpable. It felt like a weight had been lifted from his chest. A truth he had been carrying for far too long, finally out in the open. Sarah blinked, her iridescent eyes shimmering with a mix of surprise and emotion. You have. Alex nodded, his gaze locking with us. I've been trying to ignore it, trying to focus on my studies and everything happening here, but no matter what, my mind always comes back to Yair, the one who matters to me. Zara. You always have been. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them filled with the unspoken emotions that had been building for so long. Then, without warning, Zara took a step forward and wrapped her arms around Alc's, pulling him into a tight embrace. He responded immediately, his arms encircling her, holding her close as the weight of their confession settled between them. I was so scared, Era whispered against his chest, her voice trembling with emotion. Scared that you wouldn't feel the same. I was just another friend to you. Alex pressed his cheek against the top of her head, his heart pounding in his chest. You're not just another friend, Zara. There's so much more than that. I didn't realize how much until I almost lost you for a long moment. They simply stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the sounds of Thibodeau fading into the background. As they allowed themselves to savor the closeness, the warmth, the understanding I had finally blossomed between them. So when Zara finally pulled back, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Buther's smile was radiant. So what happens now? Alex chuckled, softly brushing a stray lock of her silver hair away from her face. I guess we figured out together, one step at a time. Zara's smile widened, and for the first time in what felt like weeks, the tension between them was gone, replaced by a sense of peace, of something new and exciting. They weren't just friends anymore. They were something more, something deeper, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As they sat down by the fountain, their hands entwined, Alex couldn't help but feel a profound sense of relief and joy. The uncertainties of the past few weeks had evaporated. In them, their place was a new certainty of certain that he and Zara were meant to be together in what of the future unfolded. But even as they shared quiet moments of laughter and conversation, the shadow of the growing attention from others still lingered in the back of Alex's mind. He knew that things wouldn't be easy, that there would be challenges they hadn't anticipated, but now with Zara by his side, those challenges didn't seem so daunting. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Alex felt like he had found something real. Something that transcended the curiosity and fascination of their peers, and as the stars shimmered above them through the translucent dome, He knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together with a bond that was strong earthen. Anything he had ever known their journey, both at the academy and in their relationship, was just beginning, but now with their hearts open and their feelings laid bare, Alex and Zara were ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them together.